Hi, parents, and welcome back to our series called Instant Toddler Obedience. And in this video, I want to give you some guidelines, some additional information about what you need to be mindful of when you are applying this process of programming your child's heart. So, the title of this message is The Golden Rule. And what I mean by that is that we have to look at our children as human beings, as equal in value and worth to us. In God's eyes, they have just as much worth and value as we do. Of course, they do. But often we forget that they have a heart, just like we do, that they have needs and desires and feelings and emotions, just like we do. And we treat them more like robots than the way we want to be treated, which is the golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated. So when you're applying this process of programming your child's heart and teaching him obedience, you have to be mindful that you can't ignore his needs. If he's in a state of emotional or physical need, then you can't just ignore that and expect him to respond. Our children are not robots. So if your child has a physical need, if he's hungry or tired, and you tell him it's time to pick up your toys, and he starts fussing and whining and resisting and saying no, well, don't just ignore that. He's communicating how he knows, whether it's, fussing, whining, throwing a tantrum, whatever, because he's trying to tell you something. I have a need that's not being met. And remember that children are impulsive. They're not thinking through, oh, I have a need, I'm going to whine or fuss or resist until mom figures out what my need is. No, we have to recognize he's not cooperating. Is there something else that I need to address before I can expect him to respond to me? In other words, we have to respond to their needs and desires before we expect them to respond to ours. So remember, we're the grown-up, we're the adult, we're in charge here. We're modeling relationships in everything we do with our child. Every relationship your child has in life will be modeled after the one he has with you. That's a free little statistic there for you. But it's true. And even the relationship he has with God. So in your parenting, you want to treat him the way you want to be treated. You want to treat him the way you want him to treat others. If you're not listening to his needs, then he's not going to listen to his spouse's needs when he's married. And I use the pronoun he just because I was raised in an era when that was not a masculine pronoun, but it was a neutral pronoun used to mean any human being. So if I haven't mentioned that before, I'm mentioning it now. So let's just say she. If she's fussing and she's resisting, stop and ask yourself, okay, what is going on here? It's usually obvious. It could be an emotional need. Maybe they're frustrated. Maybe they're confused. Maybe they're sad, angry. Maybe they're wanting to do something else. That's an emotion, a desire that you say it's time to turn off the TV and he wants to watch his cartoon. So there's a conflict there. And so you want to recognize that desire and that want and that need, because remember, a desire is the same thing as a need to a toddler. They don't know the difference between those. And that again goes back to their cognitive ability. They don't have the ability to differentiate. And so I highly recommend that you go through the course Heart to Heart, which is where I go through in depth on how to connect with your child's heart through his emotions and needs and desires. And that, along with this course, they're just like gold. So I highly recommend you do that, because I go into a whole course on that, how to honor his desires without granting every single one of them. You don't have to give him everything he desires, but we can honor that. So back to our instant toddler obedience. So when you're requesting or commanding or directing or demanding something of your child, and he's not responding, maybe you've already, and I experienced this to this day, if my son doesn't respond when I tell him to do something, I know, because we've been doing this now for almost 20 years, I know that there's something else going on. Either he's distracted, he's hungry, he's tired, he's whatever, but something else is going on. So you have to address those needs before you can expect the obedience. And as I say this, I realize that you really do need to go through that heart-to-heart course, because in that you will learn how to address his desires. Because a lot of times you tell him to do something and it's time to go and he's playing and he wants to play. So how do you honor his desire to continue playing but fulfill what you need, which is you need to go. It's time to go. And that really is a whole nother course called Heart to Heart. So I highly recommend you look at that. But I just want you to, for the sake of this, is to recognize that your child's basic physical and emotional needs need to be met or understood and honored before you can expect him to obey. And that's just the way we want to be treated. You don't want your needs and desires to be ignored by your spouse, and then he or she is just demanding things of you and never honoring you and your individuality and your desires. Yep, that's all I have for this video. I know I said this was going to be the last one, but I should know by now not to say that, because there's always one more. So I do have, one more quick video that I will share with you before we end this series. But in this one, just remember to treat your child with respect and honor, because that's what you want from him, and you're teaching him by the way that you interact with him. Not just demanding that robotic obedience, but recognizing that he's a human being with his own individual needs, desires, and wants that are real to him. And if you ignore those, he's not going to have any desire to work with you. So it's a two-way street, and that's what we call authoritative parenting, not authoritarian, where you're just the boss. Authoritative, where you're in control without being controlling, that you're guiding the process because you're the one that understands what's going on. He doesn't understand everything that's going on inside of him, but you do. And as you learn to navigate your toddler's experience and life and inner workings, then you can and will be able to control the situation without being controlling, if that makes sense. So I hope this was helpful. Just remember that you are teaching your child how to relate to other people by how you relate to him. So let's be respectful and honoring of our children in our desire to create obedience. Obedience is not something that serves us. We're teaching our children to obey authority and programming them for life so that they can have a good life. It's for them. So oftentimes we get obedience turned around, and it becomes self-serving. Do what I say because I need you to do it for me. Like, I've got to get here. I got to do this. I got to do that. I need you to obey because it serves me. But true parenting is equipping the child for life. And so by programming him to do what you say, tell him to do, you're simply creating an atmosphere where you can guide his life in the way that you know is best for him, because he doesn't know. But you don't need to explain all that to him. He can't understand it anyway. You just program him, and then you guide him with kindness and honor and respect. So I hope that's helpful, and that's all I have for now. And I'll see you in the next video, which I think will be the final one. See you then. Take care, and God bless.